Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? My name is Zsolt Varga. I'm one of the product owners at memoQ, and I'd like to introduce to you my colleague Veronika Pandi. She and I will talk to you about memoQ 9.5, the latest release that came out yesterday. Today's session is going to cover three sets of features. The first one is single sign-on. The second one is going to be a collection of features entitled Work Smarter. So we're going to have some exciting news there. And the third set is going to talk about the advanced assign feature in our memoQWeb. Without further ado, I will pass on the word to Veronika, who will start with single sign-on.
Hello. Before I start with single sign-on, I would like to talk a little bit on the set of these features and in general how the features in each release are put together. You will see that this one, 9.5, is a pretty much server-heavy release. Most of the features, and both big features, are aimed towards server users, memoQ server users. Or if you want to phrase it in a negative way, there is nothing for freelancers. And I would like to share with you how we at memoQ's product department or the product team, how we see this. So first of all, we see memoQ as an ecosystem where from the end user of a translation to through various providers to the actual person doing the translation or editing or DTP or whatever, all of us are in the same ecosystem. And if the memoQ ecosystem is better for anyone within this ecosystem, then it benefits everybody. So this is why we are not very much hung up on this balance. We are a little, so we do pay attention to keep balance, but we cannot do it for each release. So some releases have more features that are, as we imagine, or as we think, are more important for people who are working in the translation grid. Some other features have more. Some other releases have more features for people who are somewhat managing projects. But also, it is not even easy to mark a feature as, okay, now this is a freelancer feature, because there is. I can't name a single part of memoQ that is only used by freelancers. I can name a couple of areas that it's never used by freelancers, sure, but the other way around, it's impossible. So anyway, this 9.5 is a server-heavy one. Okay, so single sign-on, and another disclaimer. Single sign-on was developed by a colleague of ours who, to our utter sadness, went to work for another company. So I'm going to present this, and I know it. I just don't know all the intricate details by heart. So please be patient with me when you're asking questions. We will definitely answer everything. I may not have the answer offhand. So what is this single sign-on thing? The classic setup looks like, with a company, there is a company system with a bunch of users, and there is a memoQ server with a bunch of users, and the two have nothing in common. This company system may have a lot of advantages, like users use the same password to log in to the intranet, to their email, to their instant messaging, whatnot, and also the hiring system. Multi-factor authentication can be turned on if the company wants it, and the whole user management is done centralized. So any kind of a policy that the company wants to introduce, it only has to be introduced once. Now, as it happens, there are some people who have a user in both systems, both the company system and the memoQ server. Of course, there are some who only have a user in the company system, and there are others, like freelancers, there may be, who only have a user in the memoQ server. So what SSO single sign-on means is that those users who both have a user in the company system and the memoQ server, those two users can be merged. So all the advantages that the company system has will be valid for the users in the memoQ server. They will be able to log in with the very same username and password, and they don't have to be managed. Those users don't have to be managed separately. And as you see, both users who were only present in one of the systems, they remain intact, so nothing happens to them. This has been possible using classic Windows Active Directory since basically forever. Excuse me, I haven't checked the exact date, but it's like well over 5 years, probably closer to 10. Now, with 9.5, this is doable if the company system, if the company identity manager or identity managing system or management system, or it has a couple of names, is either Okta or Microsoft Azure Active Directory. Those are the first ones that are actually kind of there, that memoQ 9.5 is already prepared for. But we built the foundation and pretty much the ground floor too. So from now on, it will be fairly easy to introduce other identity providers or other identity management systems as well. Some of them may need some further development. Some of them may also need some setup. There are differences between them, even though they use the same protocol. But it will be a lot easier from now. So should you want to use this, please contact us, either support or your account manager or whoever you're in contact with. And we'll tell you how much we can do, how fast. So how does it look like in action? First of all, the system administrator sets up this whole thing. This only happens once, and it's a bit tricky, but it's doable. I did it already twice. So, and this is only done once. And then the user selects this new option that has just been added to the login window in memoQ. The same thing works on the web too. This is what I'm showing now. Then this person chooses which system they are using. If you only set up one of them, then obviously you won't see this screen. So if you only use Microsoft Azure, then you don't have to select it each and every time. And then the user just normally logs in with their general company account. And then only once gives their old username, the memoQ server username and password. This is done only once. This is the time when these two accounts are merged. And this is also the last time this user uses their memoQ server username and password. Because this is it, it's done. The user who have already been there in the system, in the memoQ server now can log in with their company account. Actually, they can only log in with their company account from that point on. So this is how it works with old memoQ users, with the people who were already present, who already had a user in the memoQ server. How does it work with new people? Excuse me. People at the company, people who work at the company but don't yet have a memoQ user. It starts the very same with the very same steps. Select the new option and log in with company account, but this time this user will choose, no, this is my first time here. And after this, the server administrator, the memoQ administrator, will have to enable their account. So this user will appear on the list of server users, but it will be disabled. So a memoQ server admin has to edit this user and enable it. And this is it. You also have a usable memoQ server account like this. So this is how it looks. And now let's go to small things.
All right.
Yep, there you are.
Yeah, thank you, Veronica. Okay, so the new section is called Work Smarter and Not Harder. These are going to be some smaller features, but we believe that a lot of you will appreciate these. So let's take a look at empty, for instance. We are adding one new and updating an existing one. The new empty service is called Alexa, and it incorporates an empty engine that's trained specifically with legal and financial content. It's primarily used in Canada when translating between French and English, but now it's supporting Spanish as beta. And so whoever is looking at translating financial legal documents using these languages should probably give it a try. You can see on the UI that you have 3 standard options that you can choose from, how to handle tags and formatting. Other than that, it's a pretty standard empty plugin with some really powerful background features. The other empty plugin that I'd like to talk to you about is Textra. Textra has been with us for a number of years now. It's primarily used in Southeast Asia, and more specifically, Japanese translators use it a lot. This time, we have an update that incorporates a complete design revamp. So it looks sleeker and probably more user-friendly, but it also has some new features, new options. For instance, translators can now check in, as you can see, a checkbox correct characters in Chinese translations. And so this will help them avoid mix-up of different types of Chinese characters. For example, simplified versus traditional. So it kind of normalizes the text. It also has some administrative options. You can add API passwords, or you can save settings or load API configurations. You can even restrict sentence length when sending API requests. So this actually keeps sort of control over your expenses. We hope that you will enjoy these new features and the new sleek design. Moving on to the next page is what we call batch file export with export choose path. Okay, so as you can see, batch operations is still in focus. We started out in 9.3 project level batch operations. Then we introduced in 9.4 some operations with multiple resources on the resource console and also in projects. Now this time we are working with translations, and when you specifically choose this file export with choose path option, so far you have been able to export only one file at a time. Now, this new UI looks really simple, still has a lot of logic behind it, powerful logic. So basically what you can do here is, if you selected multiple files for export, on this screen you can decide whether you want to export all the files into the same directory, same folder, or you can actually export them one after the other, and at any point, say as you can see on the screen, we are exporting 3 files, and I exported the first one in one directory, and at file number 2, I'm clicking in export all selected files here, which means that this file and all the remaining files in the selection will be exported into the specific export folder that I selected above. We also added one more feature. Checking the second checkbox, you can add the target language code to the file name for ease of identification. We also put a lot of logic behind to manage file name conflicts. So depending on the various scenarios, we can even save file names or files with the same name, but with different content into the respective subfolders within the selected folder. So it's just all in the user in mind to be able to identify where the files went and to avoid any kind of confusion. So hopefully you'll appreciate this new batch operation that we support. The other thing I want to talk to you about is, I believe, is useful not only for project managers but also for translators. The issue that we were trying to tackle was that memoQ projects can have main languages, that is without sublanguages, and this is not in alignment with Word dictionaries. Microsoft Word has dictionaries that use sublanguage identification. So you don't have, for instance, a generic English in Word. Therefore, up until now, if you used a project that had a main language only without any sublanguage, for instance, you were translating into English, you could only select Microsoft Word as your spell checker, but you were not able to identify which specific dictionary Word should pick when you're checking the translation, when you're doing this spell check either on the fly or at the end of the document as you press F7, for instance. So one specific use case where it caused some concerns was in Europe, when you're translating into English, and in a generic English project, you would want to export a file that uses UK spell check. But you couldn't really do the spell check in memoQ with UK, because once you picked Word, Word has a default dictionary assigned to English, and that's US English. So with this new UI, with this new option that you can see on the screen, now you can select the project language, which is English in this case, and then you can select the corresponding Word dictionary that you would like memoQ to use while doing the spell check, either on the fly, that is using curly underlines, or when you're doing spell check in the dialog. How does memoQ know what you have? Well, when memoQ starts up, after a little while, memoQ will check in the background what dictionaries, what Microsoft Word dictionaries you have installed in your computer. So when you go on to options and select any language under language dependent settings, then under Word dictionaries, you will have those dictionaries listed for you, and you will be able to select the one that best suits your needs. So hopefully both translators and project managers will appreciate this new feature. And let's pass on to Veronica again.
Okay, so TM-driven segmentation. TM-driven segmentation is a feature that has been there in memoQ for years. There was a bit of time when it was a little broken, like completely, but it's been back for a while now. What is it about? It is okay. Yeah. So when you have a text that was for some reason was badly segmented, and even though you have already translated pretty much this, because of the bad segmentation, pre-translation doesn't help you. So if you turn on TM-driven segmentation, then memoQ, after checking whether it has hits for the actual segments, it will also try to split and join segments to see if it finds better hits that way. So in this case, it managed to find the proper line endings, and this way find the good translation for them that was already in the TM. So as I said, this has already been there in local projects where 2 or 3 segments could be joined. What is new now, that now it works in online projects too. And we also added the possibility to join up to 5 segments. Obviously, if the more segments memoQ is trying to join, the more time it takes. So please be aware that this may take a lot of time. Please experiment. Please don't start it with a very urgent project that uses TM over 100,000 segments, because that will take a very long time. But roughly, I can tell you that the ratio is roughly linear. So if it takes 2 minutes to do it with up to 2 segments, then it will roughly take 30 minutes to do it with 3 segments. So it won't jump from 20 minutes to 2 days. But yeah, it will grow. Yes, and this was about the small stuff. And now back to my favorite memoQWeb web PM features. Actually, we just had a question from Mateusz in the Q&A, and I think I will read it because it's pretty much on topic. What he's asking about is whether we are planning any major overhaul of the UI and UX, because it's dated and clunky. Yep, I hear you. And we also have some issues with it. The thing is, it is ridiculously expensive to do a little UX overhaul. Really, I mean, yeah. So it's hundreds of hours, hundreds of developer hours. Still, we haven't given it up. So, for example, the filter config selector overhaul, that was kind of a pilot project. And we are definitely, as you, I suppose, have already seen, and you are also going to see, we are definitely using completely new and redesigned UX on the web. So it's not like redrawing everything we have on the in the desktop app. So what do I call advanced assignment? The very tricky things. The distribute documents among translators. So the case where you have, I don't know, 120 documents and 3 translators, and you want them to share, want to distribute it between them as evenly as possible. There is the first accept, where you assign a document to a bunch of users, for example, a bunch of translators, and the one that accepts it for the first time will get the assignment. There is group sourcing, where a bunch of users can work on the same document at the same time, synchronously. There are sub-vendors, which is a subset of users within the server that are hidden from the server admin. Excuse me. And yeah, calculated deadlines are not yet introduced on the web. So this is how it looks in the client. I think this is a good example of clunky. And this is what we did with it on the web. This had many iterations before we arrived here. So as you can see, I promise you it does the same thing as this does. As you see, for example, assign and distribute documents were added into one option, because at the end of the day, if you distribute a document among one translator, then you are just assigning it to them. We have first acceptance group sourcing here, but sub-vendors were just moved to be included among the translators, and you can choose them from here. You can also turn it off and on, whether you want to override the existing assignments. For example, when you open a set of files for advanced assignment and none of them have a translator, then this option will be on. But if you open it in a way that either one of them already has an assignee, then this option will by default be off, and you have to manually turn it on again. And this protects you from accidentally overriding existing assignments. And you also have the groups here, the user groups. The members of them will be added here. And you can oversee all the 3 rows available for each document. You can oversee them and do all the assignments for all of them. And the filtering thing, so this thing, this was moved here. You can filter in order to only see the project users, or you can also filter them by language pair, or you can also filter them by text. And then this list will grow shorter. So this is it, and this is only on the web. And to be honest, I don't know if this will make it to the desktop client or not. But I would love it to. But we have a lot of things to do. So this was it. And I think I will pass the mic to George, and I will take a look at what I have for me.
Sure. I've answered a few questions already. Okay. Is Microsoft Word spell check for Japanese fixed? So it works now in memoQ too. All we can say is that we go to Microsoft Word and we ask Word to use the spell check feature. So we only collect data from Word and then insert it into memoQ. So if it works in Word, it should work in memoQ too. All right. Let's see the others. Okay. Another problem is post-editing segmentation is total nightmare. I'm not sure what this is.
Yeah, this is, Caroline, I'm not sure. Okay, so there is Caroline has a lot of issues with some SDL files. I can't answer those in theory. So I can if you report them to support with sample files and exact problem description, then you will get an answer for those. They can't be answered in this general way, I'm sorry. And as for, that's also your question. You talk about joining as only company. What about sole freelancers? Freelancers are going to join the exact same way as they were before. Let me just go back to this. Yeah, so this guy, he's a freelancer. He will keep using his old memoQ user with the old login name and password, and nothing will change for them. It may happen that the company decides to introduce some kind of another identity manager, like, I don't know, Microsoft, to include these people as well. But that solely depends on the company. But it is absolutely fine to keep using the memoQ server with your old user. Okay, Zsolt, just go ahead.
Yeah,
I'm reading.
There was one that I clicked. I would like to answer. Sergey Libenson asked, would I be able to keep the 9.4 version along with the 9.5 on the same PC? I wanted to answer it live because it comes up from time to time. Yes, absolutely. You can install any number of memoQ versions on your computer. We just recommend you install them in separate folders. And you can have your shortcuts on your desktop and then launch 9.4. Once, and then you launch 9.5 the next day. We normally keep like half a dozen or so versions on our computer. So yes, obviously there's no issue whatsoever having multiple versions of memoQ on the same PC.
Actually, you. Okay, then let me just go ahead. Can you switch between TM-driven and simple pre-translation at will, or decide beforehand? This TM-driven pre-translation is an option on the pre-translate dialog. So you can turn it off and on. You haven't seen it so far. You haven't seen it because in online project, so it wasn't there at all. So you will be. You can do it before you do the pre-translation, or probably you do it without it, and then you see that there isn't enough. So maybe you try it together with TM-driven. And yes, if the user selects project users only view on one project, is the selection cached for the next search? I'm not sure, but my guess is that it isn't. Well, try it out. And Birgit is asking to eliminate the minutes from the deadline assignment. We did some simplification there. I think the defaults are now half hours. I dare not completely eliminate the minutes. I myself have never used any other deadline than full hours, but I cannot be sure that nobody else does. So not completely, I'm afraid. Regarding SSO, are there any changes to how ELM licenses are distributed, updated? Nope, not really. So as you see, these users, they will behave exactly the same as they used to when they were only existing in the memoQ server. So the only difference is that now they log in, they are able to log in, they are logging in with another set of username and password. as for memoQ server is concerned, they are the same user, so no change there. Or if I might rephrase it, so for these people, for the users that are only in the memoQ server, when someone tries to log in, then what memoQ server does is it looks up its own database and compares the hashed password with the other hashed password, etc. Whereas if a user is logging in with some kind of an SSO user, then what memoQ server does is that it pretty much calls Microsoft Azure Active Directory. Hi Azure, I got this data. Am I allowed to let this person in? And if Azure answers yes, then they let that person in. And from then on, nothing changes. Yep. Okay. Jolt, I have Webtrends on top.
I think I already answered that. I was just typing it up. Let me see.
Okay.
I've answered quite a bit.
Okay. Then let me. Will the full functional QA be available in the web version? At some point, yes. Very soon, no. Some parts soonish. This is the best I can do. Yes. I am wondering whether it is possible to define several languages within a single memoQ project. It is definitely possible to define several target languages. You can only have one source language. And I think this possibility of multiple target languages, it may depend on your edition, but I don't know that by heart.
Yeah, there was one question. I think it's still about the various versions of memoQ. Alexandra asked if I delete the old memoQ version on my PC, will it attack newer versions? This happened to me. I'm not sure how this happened, but unless you deleted the actual project files and whatnot, but if it's only the under the program files folder, if you have different folders for the various versions of memoQ, then it should not cause any issue. All right.
Okay. Is it possible to use Azure AD external identities and multi-factor authentication with memoQ? This is it. So it only depends on what the external identity provider does. So if Microsoft Azure only answers, when memoQ server called it and asked, can I let this person in? And then Azure may say, wait a second, I am waiting for its second factor. Okay, now go. But it completely depends on what the identity provider does and how that one is set up. And the beauty of it, I think, is that this is what they are good at. We are not that good at identity provider identity management. We are good at creating a CAD tool. So they are going to handle that. Yeah, go ahead, George.
Yeah, let me take one over. Osama is asking about whether it's possible not to download TMs locally when downloading an online project. You connect to the online TM, so you're not wasting bandwidth and disk space. You only have your project sitting on your computer with all the settings, but the resources remain on the server. So you might want to talk to the project manager to set up the project differently.
Yeah, I think it might be, the reason might be that the phrasing of that option is, I think, a little unfortunate. because as far as I remember, I won't pick up my client now, but as far as I remember, the way it is phrased, it is that it is possible to download TMs.
Yes.
And the fact is that you download it now. It is compulsory to download it then. So it's only one single click.
Yeah, and also I was thinking maybe the question was related to packages, like a package workflow. In that workflow, the project manager also has several options to pick, and one of which is to leave the resources on the server and not include in the package. But I believe it's your original question was about a simple online project. So yes, what Veronica said was. Probably the PM was too eager and clicked that option there.
Joe, there are a couple of Webtrends related questions. I think it would be nice if you answered them.
Let me see.
As a teaser for.
Yeah, I've answered a few.
For next time.
Let's see which one is there, because I've answered a few of them. As far as Webtrends, all I can say is that we are going to have a bunch of new features that is only available in the client currently, added to Webtrends, and it's going to come in our 9.6 version in December. We hope to make a whole lot of people really happy with that. And as far as there was one question about the UI revamp, we believe that the functional revamp was more important and more urgent based on our research. So we are doing it right now. And as far as the UI revamp, it is going to come. I can't really say a definite deadline. We have already started it, but like Veronica pointed out, revamping UI looks really simple. I mean, you basically can just think, why don't we just draw a different icon? Well, it's a little more complicated than that.
Yeah, I think we are out of time, to be honest. Mm-hmm. So we'll answer the remaining ones. Oh, there was one I marked I wanted to answer. Can we have 9.5 server and still manage projects on a client side as sub-vendor while client is on a 9.4 server, all that using our 9.5 client? In theory, yes, but you can always also have several clients installed on your computer. So you only have to pay attention that to when you're installing it, you just need to choose another folder and they will live happily right beside each other forever and ever. This is fairly heavily tried and tested by us, so we usually have like 6 or 8. And support guys, I think they have even more. So short answer is yes, you can. Longer answer is yes, but you can also have your 9.4 client beside it. So I think this was it. And I would like to thank you for your attention. We'll see you in December. Thank you.
All right, you guys have a great day. Bye-bye.
Have a great day. Bye.